and you said, "My combat service was difficult and challenging, but I'm here to tell you that I was not broken or damaged by that
Mhm.
experience. We need to correct the common view that military service is psychologically devastating." So, can you expand on that? Because I know you suffered a traumatic brain injury, and I know
Yeah.
you better than I know about some of these guys who come back who really are incredibly damaged psychologically in addition to physically. They tend to fight back. I mean, these guys just never admit they don't admit weakness if they perceive it as a weakness. But expand on that for me.
Yeah, I'll do it with a story if you don't mind.
Yeah, please.
When I came home, I went to the welcome home ceremony, and again, 16 months of heavy combat changes you. It just changes you to the core of who you are. I remember standing at Fort Drum in this welcome home ceremony, and you have like red, white, and blue everywhere. And you have the Army band playing the Army song, and you have everybody up in the bleachers in this basketball court waving American flags. And everyone in our formation is nervous about seeing their family, and every family member in the crowd has this unbelievable amount of energy and excitement to see their loved ones that they hadn't seen in a year. So you can imagine that if you're tuned into this sort of thing, the weird energy that's in that room. And I remember one of my soldiers saying to me just before we were dismissed, like, "Hey, sir, how can I ever tell my family about what we went through over there?" And I
Mm,
didn't have an answer for him. And then our formation was dismissed, and it was happy tears all around, and I got to see my family again. But I felt like there was a barrier between my family and I. Like they didn't even know who I was anymore. And then I went home, back to Pittsburgh here, and the first thing I did was like pull out my like little flip phone and text my buddies. I'm like, "Hey, I'm home. Let's go get some beers." And no joke, I go, like, they text me their address, and I'm thinking, "Oh my god, this is the same damn address they've lived in for like 10 years." And then I walk
mhm.
into their this like rundown apartment that they're all living in, and then like they're all sitting in the same spots on the couch, drinking the same beer, talking about the same girl problems with Simpsons posters on the wall and Family Guy magnets on the fridge. And I'm thinking like, "Oh my god, nothing has changed here at home, but I am a fundamentally different person in every way." And we went
Mm,
out to this bar called Casey's in the south side of Pittsburgh. And I started trying to tell them some of the stories about what happened to the kids in Afghanistan. And within 5 minutes, I found myself drinking at the table alone. And I get it. Like, look, this isn't a pity party. Like, those stories are intense, right? But in that moment, I said to myself, "You know what? These civilians," and I know that every veteran has had a moment like this, and it doesn't matter what war they served in. You say, "These civilians, they'll never get it." And then you just shut down and you lock the war away inside yourself because you say these civilians just will never understand, Megan. And and then one day I realized that storytelling was powerful. Like me writing Outlaw Platoon, if you think about this, me writing that book helped me in so many ways. And basically taking the war out of myself, putting it on the page so that when people read that book, they're helping me carry that burden. They're learning
mm,
about our experience, right? And
mhm.
and so and I started asking myself very deep and fun, like just fundamental questions about why veterans lock away that pain, because it never fails. Like before I ran for political office, would go do speaking engagements or advocate for veterans. You always hear from someone in the crowd and say, "You know what? My grandfather was a World War II veteran, and my God, we never even knew that he served until after he passed away, and we found a dusty
Yes.
box of medals in the garage." Or my father was a Vietnam vet. He never talked about the war. So why do veterans do that? Why do veterans lock away that pain? They lock away that pain because you raise your right hand and you take an oath to protect and defend this country and the people that you love and you care about. And when you realize that the very story of your war hurts the people that you took an oath to protect, well, you lock it
Mm,
away and you never talk about it because that's what we do. We protect people. We're protectors. And that needs to change. That whole concept needs to change because the bridge or the gap between people who enjoy freedom on a day-to-day basis and people who protect it is very wide.
mm.
And and so and, and so there's ways in which when our men and women come home, you feel like you're an exile in your own country. And so that I tell you that story because that's where I don't like the idea of post-traumatic stress disorder. Right, at its core, post-traumatic stress is a human reaction to horrific events in your life,
Mm.
whether it was
Mm-hmm.
sexual trauma, a car accident, or combat trauma. At its core, it's an anxiety disorder. And to say that you're disordered for having a normal human response to something horrific is wrong. And so,
Mm.
I mean, my God, you need to be worried about the guy in combat who doesn't get affected by losing his
Yeah,
friends. That's the
that's right.
guy that you got to worry about. So it's not a disorder. I wasn't
Well, but I
broken
like what
by
you're saying,
this.
but you're humanizing these guys in the military who go through more trauma than the average person ever will in their life, and they find a way to deal with it. And I think, we right now as a country need a little bit more of that example and a little bit more of those lessons and a little bit more guys willing to talk about how they did it, right? I mean, we've been talking about this in the context of not Simone Biles exactly, because, I was talking about her last week saying I support her. She's been through a lot.
Mhm.
But I think it's strange how we're celebrating the quitting itself. That for me is a bridge too far. We can have empathy for her and say it's a sad day in an amazing athlete's career, but instead the media wants to celebrate the actual quitting. Um, and I just think what you need is to look at more guys like you, guys like Marcus Luttrell, who just quitting's not in your DNA. It's just no matter
You
how
can't.
hard the hardship, you don't quit.
Megyn, you can't. It was never our men and I. Like, I'm not like the toughest guy in the world, right? I don't come from a long line of military generals. I'm a city boy. So I was wounded in Afghanistan. My men were wounded in Afghanistan, and we endured not because we were tough. I mean, don't get me wrong. There were plenty of men in my platoon that were like hardcore meat eaters, way tougher than me. But we endured, and I think did extraordinary things because we didn't want to let each other down. So were we
Yeah.
going through hell? Absolutely. Like I had a guy from Haiti, is Saint Jean is his last name, um, and he got shot in the head. The bullet, I watched it happen. The bullet hit his helmet, hit his skull, penetrated the skin, but the helmet slowed the round down enough where it circumvented the side of his skull and went out the back. Okay. 2 days after that happened, he was back on patrol manning a machine gun.
Oh, wow.
This guy came to this country, wasn't even a citizen, loved America, defended it because he believed it was exceptional. And when I asked him, I said, "Hey, St. Jean," I said, "Man, like, dude, you just got shot in the head. Like, you don't have to go on this patrol. You could like sleep it off or something, man." He goes, "No, sir." He said, I'm not going to let my brothers down.